second biggest news in real estate, and probably since COVID, I would think. During COVID, I think the 3% range was always a mistake. I thought it was a knee-jerk reaction. I thought, wow, why are we doing this, right? It was a boon to a lot of people temporarily.
Right.
And then we paid the price.
Correct.
Right? And now that we've paid the price, I think we may go back to, and I believe we will, and this is a larger matrix thing. So you and I have both been through some bubbles and bursts, right? And this was not really a bubble and burst, but it was a pretty interesting cavitation. Historically, 3.5% roughly appreciation year over year. Then you get into the aughts or the early 2000s, where you want this thing, and then we get back to that 3.5, and then we got COVID. And now we're going to go back to the 3.5. The 3.5 is going to be up here now instead of there because we gained so much, and that's not going away, particularly in South Florida, unless people decide that South Florida sucks or something. They don't want to come anymore. But I think we're going to go back to that 3.5% appreciation on homes, roughly, okay, for a period of time until some other great, catalyst comes along to change it. But with lending, I fully expect that we will go, and the reality is that in a historical context, even when rates went to 7%, they weren't that damn bad.
Right.
I remember the first house that I bought. I don't know what year it was, 90s, 2000, late 90s, early 2000s. No, it was before that. Was it early 90s? Whatever. I was super happy with a VA loan to get under 10%. Because 10% was like, wow, it's down to 10%. I mean, so anyways, but I think that we'll probably end up falling somewhere in that mid fives. And this is where your crystal ball is going to be way stronger than mine.
Okay.
But I assume that we're going to get somewhere in that mid fives, and that's probably where we're going to stay for quite some time. Does that seem like an accurate guess?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. So here we are today.
I mean, I expect you to know what the Fed's thinking, what they're going to do. I expect you to know all these things, which I know you don't, but no pressure, yeah. But your best guess. I mean, that's...
Well, here we are, September 17th. Okay.
Yes.
So interestingly enough, we've...
The day that we'll make it, 2.55.
Right. We've been in an ascending interest rate environment for 3 years. So this marks 3 years, September 2024. Yeah. So it's reasonable to believe anywhere between a 25 to 50 basis point cut to the federal prime rate today at 2 o'clock. And then the biggest thing, though, is really looking.
You got a crystal ball on that, just to cut you off? You 2.55?
Most are. J.P. Morgan, the largest financial institution on planet Earth, is putting 50%.
Yeah, and that's
or 50 basis points, I should say. So
I think that's what everybody's betting on, but
Okay.
Anyways,
right. So, but the really thing, if you really want to pay attention to something today, you want to pay attention to the notes that there's going to be going over the press conference at 2:30 p.m. That's actually more important. Yep. So interest rates have been going down leading up to a cut, which is normal. Yep. That's the market pricing in the cut. With all that said, I think the Federal Reserve did a great job over the past 3 years. In putting it as a sideways market. They didn't crash anything, but they had to bring down what was occurring prior. So I think they did a fairly decent job, despite the fact of me doing less mortgages.
No, listen, I think it was a Herculean task, and like I said, the whole 3% thing I think was an aberration that probably shouldn't have occurred to that level, and I think that there was a pay the piper. That was going to, it just had to happen because 3% isn't viable for anybody. Right. In the long term.
Market cycles usually last about 2.5 to 3 years. So this month is 3 years. Yeah. So what I believe is I think we're going to see rates continue to fall. I think we're going to see a 5 in front of it. I think that's the number that's going to trigger homeowners to say, I can sell. Right. And I think we're going to see a different market over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, a more bullish market. And that would just be apropos to the last 3 years of having more of a sideways and choppy market.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you. I've been talking for several months on what I call the switch. There's going to be something that turns a switch. Now, I'm a little more vague about what I think it's going to be because I think presidential elections and all that kind of stuff, and ultimately the market's going to decide when that switch flips, right? The buyers will largely, I think, drive that in this context, and I think dropping the rates is going to be a catalyst. Is it going to be the switch catalyst, or is it going to be the rates are down and now the election's over? So there are in my mind, but there's going to be, and when we see that, then what we're going to see is a mini boom market because there's so much pent up buyer demand. And then, and right now, quite frankly, as we've discussed before, it's a buyer's market, right? There's a lot of people that have now had their homes on the market for many months because the buyers have been holding. It's like racehorses being put in the box, right? Correct. and then we're just waiting for that bell to ring and for them to break, right?
And that bell is monetary policy.
The bell is monetary policy, although, again, my experience is that presidential election years have always muddled the waters so much that you never really can predict. But I think that we are going to see we're going to see some action with the rates on for sure.
Right.
I've already been, and to you buyers out there, if you're watching this, and we'll get this out as soon as we can, unlike, a lot of the stuff rolls out on our podcast, 4 months later, or whatever the hell it is, but this is more, you need to be making your decisions now, because here's the thing. This guy right here, we put something under contract today. Let's say we do it today, okay? The rates drop today later, right? He's not locking, he doesn't have to lock your rate. You can lock your rate in the future. Now, obviously, in most cases, lenders will always say, you want to lock your rate as soon as you can so you get it in and all that sort of stuff. Well, in this case, we're pretty damn sure rates are going to come down. But if you make that purchase now, then when everybody else goes, hey, the rate's down now, let's go get it, you've already put yourself in the driver's seat because you were in there, and I think you got a couple of weeks on that matrix, honestly, but it's going to happen. Because once everybody starts getting out into the market, then you're going to be facing that competition kind of like you faced before. And, if you can go in and make your decision without all that competition, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Oh, 100%.
Hey, if you enjoy Questions from Chalo, why don't you be a part of it? Let us know what you want to hear about, and Chalo will ask me right here on live TV, kind of.